US President Joe Biden has warned Russia could use nuclear weapons as Moscow faces mounting setbacks in its war with Ukraine. Ukrainian forces are making significant counter-offensive gains as they try to liberate Moscow-occupied territories. Mark Stone has more from Washington.
There was a pool reporter at this event, as there always is at all events that the president goes to. So it wasn't as though these were comments, private comments leaked. They were very public comments. But he does have form for being a little bit more off the cuff, a little bit more candid in these sorts of forums in a way that perhaps he wouldn't be. And it's got him into trouble in the past. And I have to say that we are seeing attempts now by his team to not change what he says, because it wasn't factually wrong, but to massage the comments. It's, I think, the case that the comments he made is not based on any new information. But nevertheless, very stark language. I'll read some of it to you. He said, "We have not faced the prospect of Armageddon since Kennedy and the Cuban Missile Crisis." He, Putin, is not joking when he talks about potential use of tactical nuclear weapons or biological or chemical weapons, because because his military is, you might say, significantly underperforming. So pretty frank language. Just to hear an American president talk about the issue of Armageddon is, I mean, it's pinch yourself stuff. It's quite extraordinary. And I thought actually some of what he said just after those bits that I read out were perhaps the most interesting. He said, "I don't think there's any such thing as the ability to easily use a tactical nuclear weapon and not end up with Armageddon." Now, the context to that is that Vladimir Putin, the Russian leader, has been saying openly for weeks and weeks and weeks that he is prepared to use his nuclear arsenal in the war in Ukraine. He even last week, a week ago exactly, said that the Americans had set a precedent by dropping bombs on Nagasaki and Hiroshima at the end of World War II. He's quite plain, bluff or not, that he's willing to use nuclear weapons. Now, the concern, and it is still a low concern, but it's much higher than it was, is that Vladimir Putin might decide, because he's losing in Ukraine, to use a tactical nuclear weapon. A nuclear weapon's a nuclear weapon, but a tactical nuclear weapon, it has a smaller yield, and it's to be used on the battlefield rather than firing it at another international capital. The concern is, if he does that, if he uses that sort of weapon on the battlefield, the West will be compelled to respond. We think we know they won't respond in kind with a nuclear attack, the West that is, but they will overwhelmingly fire weapons, conventional weapons, at Russia proper, the Russian mainland, and that then would prompt some sort of a response, perhaps from Vladimir Putin. That, I think, is what President Biden is getting at when he attempts to draw a line between that moment that Putin uses a tactical nuclear weapon and what may come next. It's frightening stuff, and it is fair to say that we are at a moment that we haven't been at since 1962 and the Cuban Missile Crisis.